What is up, beautiful people? Corwin L. Gilliams here, coming at you with another video. Hope you guys are feeling blessed. Hope you guys are grateful to be alive. Some people did not wake up this morning. We did, and that's enough reason, in my opinion, for us to find even the smallest opportunity to be grateful. If you have not already subscribed to my podcast on Spotify, it's called the Crowned and Robe. It's called Crowned and Robe. So if you're on Spotify, you can just search Crowned and Robed. I'm going to leave the information and the links in the description box of this YouTube channel so you can easily access. You can also subscribe to this channel if you're not already subscribed. And I'm also on Instagram at Crowned and Robe as well. I also have another platform called CLG Lifestyle, which was how I originally, or should I say, that was my last, I guess, not brand, but the last platform that I spoke from, right? Because I know many of us have multiple brands, multiple sources out there where we create content and establish our presence or whatever it is that we're trying to create, right? So what I'm trying to articulate is that I have multiple brands, right? Some of which I actively engage in and create content for, such as Crown and Robe and CLG Lifestyle. So this video that I'm about to do can fall in line with Crown and Rope and CLG Lifestyle because it's about, inspiration, self-development, truth, and just encouraging you to be your best self, which I feel should be the foundation of every business. We want to bring the best out of people in whatever capacity we can, whether it's products, services, experiences, using our gifts and talents. It should be used to enhance humanity for the betterment, right? And so that is what I do with regards to what platform I'm using or what brand I am exercising influence under, whether it's CLG Lifestyle or Crown and Robe. The purpose of them all is to devote a certain level of time, dedication, gifts, talents to the betterment of humanity through my gifts and talents. Hopefully that explains what it is that I do. Additionally, I also do retail consulting. So if you are a mom and pop business and you want some inspiration or ideas, specifically when it comes to customer service, I share insight on my 15 plus years in the retail industry, working for companies like IKEA, H&M, Macy's, Madewell, The Gap, and more. And through those experiences, I've was able to learn a lot, right? Especially specifically in the brick and mortar space. Before we've transitioned into the online space, people were actually coming into stores and actually shopping, right? And so that has kind of ceased because of this new market, the online space. And so I don't feel like that should discontinue the shopping experience that is leaving your house and going into a store, experiencing, touching, feeling, smelling, tasting products before you actually buy it, right? I feel like people still want that. It's just that the level of mediocrity in the marketplace right now is just profound. And I feel like people are just not convinced that it's worth it to step out of their house, to go to work, to shop. I mean, literally, you can have everything delivered to your house instantaneously, right? So technology and the advancement of the human experience when it comes to the marketplace has truly modified the human daily living, right? Or should I say, introduce different ways that we can, use our time more resourcefully, right? And so my years in the retail industry, I'm able to, again, you may desire to be not like Amazon or Walmart or any of those juggernauts that is currently, just having businesses go out of, existence, but you have a desire to sustain what it is that you work hard to have as an entrepreneur, as someone who's has established a brand and a service and products that you're able to sell, and you already have a reputation in your community, because you are someone who may not be a fast fashion or an instant gratification type business model because you don't have the resources, you don't have the money, etc., etc., but you have the integrity, you have the loyalty, you have, you know what I'm saying, the value, or you understand the value in customer service and the importance of restoring, right, the hospitality when it comes to customer service in the marketplace, which has, you know, literally, I feel distinguished, you know, I mean, has, you know, disappeared, right, when it comes to just, you know, what I believe and the standard of customer service I believe is required, not just, you know, satisfactory, but exceptional, right? You know, the old tale, that, or the old man saying, you know, that the customer is always right. And it shows, because if customers are not treated the way that they believe, right, that they should be treated, then, you know, they're not going to really support your business or the customers that you want, right? You want customers who are not just looking for the best bargain or the best sale. You want people who kind of, you know, want to establish a lifestyle with you. They know that when they come to your store, service is consistent. They can expect immaculate service. You understand what I'm saying? And of course, we're not saying for you to, you know, give an arm and a leg. What we're saying for you is to establish your brand identity in the realms of customer service by being consistent with your values, right? With how you serve your customers, so that you are attracting the people who not only know who you are and what you're about, but they can confidently communicate to other people about the services and the experience that they have when they come to your establishment. So that's really foundationally what I'll talk about, based on my experience, and of course based on the wisdom of God and everything that I'm able to compel you into doing, right? Taking the steps so that you can transform your business. So that's the retail consulting aspect of CLG lifestyle. So, but this video, I wanted to talk about, I guess it's a component of retail, or should I say business. We're talking about employee relations and human relations, because I feel like they're interchangeable, in that whether you're working at a job or whether you are living, you know, with family in the household, the act of intermingling or socializing with people is consistent, right? So it doesn't matter what title you have, it doesn't matter your relationship, blood or not. The act of socializing with people is the basis of a relationship, or the forming of a relationship and the sustaining of a relationship, if you so choose to, right? Considering both parties decide to put in the work. So what inspired me to come on and do this video was I was, you know, I talk to God, you know, I have these out loud conversations, you know, to myself, well, to God, but it looks like, you know, it may look like I'm talking to myself, but I have my headphones on, so it also looks like I'm having a conversation. But my therapy, what's therapeutic for me and what gives me resolve and peace and conclusions to questions that I ask, is just talking out loud to God and asking God for, you know, for his counsel and guidance on issues that bother me, right? So one of the issues that bothered me today, as I was doing some research on the topic of pride, I had some questions, and I was just like, you know, Lord, so, you know, pride, as we, you know, pride has multiple meanings, and this is what I talk about on my I like to say it's a book, right? So I have a quote unquote podcast that I refer to as a book, because I feel like life is a book. Your story is a book in the making. And I know the category of my podcast on the platform that I use is categorized. I chose the category personal journals, because I feel like with me and my brand and what it is that I'm projecting and presenting and portraying in truth and in spirit is honesty, transparency. So I feel like it is a book. It's a concept of a book that I am journaling, that I'm actively journaling, that I'm digitally journaling, that I'm audibly journaling, and that I'm using in the process of development and pursuing purpose and being in my promised land. I'm actively also sharing my experiences based on, you know, what I've learned, what I feel can help, what it is that the Spirit of God is wanting me to share, because someone is listening who needs a breakthrough in a certain area of their life. You know what I'm saying? Just being consistent, right? Believing in myself and allocating the same time and dedication and integrity that I would have at a job that I left last week. You know, investing that time, dedication, integrity, you know, to my brands and to my business and to the things that I believe I've been created to do, to cultivating and maximizing my time to cultivate my gifts and my talents, right? So all of this is part of the journey, and part of the journey is expressed through the podcasting industry or the podcasting sector of the communications world, right? So I talk about the importance of words and understanding the definition of words per context. I feel like a lot of the times miscommunication abounds because people are not, there's a miscommunication for multiple reasons. Culturally, when it comes to race, when it comes to different things that separate people, quote unquote, right? These things can result in people understanding definitions and terminologies in the way that they do for whatever reasons. And even if there are, right, Merriam-Webster's, the wikis, and all the resources that are out there to define words down to its Latin origination, a word is still up for interpretation, especially if you're a poet as myself and love to play with words and understand that words or writing is a form of artistry. It's like you can literally drape words on paper like it's an outfit, right? But it takes other like-minded, other people who can see and have those spiritual eyes to recognize art in word form, right? And I know there are these technical variations of art when it comes to words such as typography, or when you use words to understand or to create art and things like that. But I'm talking about word usage that is authentic, that makes sense to you, that thrills you and excites you when you use it, that you feel just unapologetically and uncompromisingly good about what it is that you are creating, even if it doesn't make sense for people who are well learned scholars who study word, have degrees upon degrees on grammar and language usage, but may disagree with how you compile sentences or disagree with how you express yourself. And this is where, again, knowing who you are and the topic of discussion, pride. Because if someone listens to your podcast, right, and they listen and they say, okay, well, how he enunciates or pronounces word, or how he writes, or how this person, it's not grammatically correct, right? There are errors, it just doesn't make sense. And some people will be turned off by just the sight of one error in your writing, right? They'll be like, okay, well, this person, for whatever reason, they're not articulate, they're not competent. I'm saying there's some issues here. There are people like that. Like you just give them a second to judge you, and they're gonna judge you off for that and deal with you accordingly. But that's fine, right? We can't control how people feel. Neither should we want to control anyone's or have any type of manipulative influence over anyone's perception of us, right? You create your world. Everyone has the power and the authority to create their world based on the sum of their experiences, and I believe when you know better, you do better. But until then, be free in exercising the God-given freedom to express yourself however you want to express it, regardless if society and culture deems it politically correct or enough for them to cancel you. You have to have such strong convictions and such peace in knowing who you are that even if the world doesn't get it, and I'm talking about people in your household as well, even if they don't understand what it is that you're trying to bring forth, they don't understand your vision, they don't understand your dreams, they don't understand the industry that God has planted in you to bring forth, but there's obviously no blueprint or no representation or no example of this thing. So you're literally like Noah and the ark. You're literally relying on, trusting on, clinging on to the Spirit of God to get revelation and insight on how to establish this design, whatever it is, right? So whatever that is for you, if you want to get somewhere, if you want to be somebody, you better wake up, as the song say, and pay attention, right? Pay attention to the signs, pay attention to the selfishness and sometimes the self-righteousness and the destruction of man-made religion, and how it has caused people to blatantly deny the presence of God and the existence of God without even asking God, like, God, if you're God, reveal yourself, right? That is what humility will do. That is what wisdom will do, right? But that's a whole nother conversation. So the definition of pride, right, came about, and I was doing my research And there were multiple definitions of pride, right? Some were positive, quote unquote, some were negative, quote unquote. And so the next, so some of the definitions was, and I'm paraphrasing here, was pride is, pride is defined as, happiness or gratefulness for your abilities, and recognizing it, and being proud of it, right? Then the other side of pride was, um, pride is is reflection of your insecurities, and using your insecurities to shine, or using your insecurities to assert your your strengths over people and their weaknesses, right? And there was even more definitions of pride, and this is why I emphasize the importance for contextual purposes, and so that people are not conversing and having these heated and sometimes passionate conversations about topics when we're not even on the same page. We're not, what are we talking about here, right? And this has happened to me. I've had extended, passionate conversations with people about some very strong subjects, and then come to the end as to why we're not getting to, not even agreement, but a mutual disagreement. Come to find out, we not even talking about the same thing, right? So that's just, again, part of the journey of self-development, self-reflection, self-awareness, and growth, right? So pride was the topic of conversations today, and I was just like, yo, so you're telling me that if I'm, based on the definitions that I read, and forgive me for not I'm actually going to put it in the description box of the YouTube, the definitions that resonated and had me feeling some type of way, right? And so I'm like, so you're saying to me that if someone perceives, right, that I am, perceive, if no, let me start with myself first. If I believe that, that in my heart, right, I am grateful and I'm thankful for the gifts and the abilities God has given me, and I'm using my gifts and my abilities to serve humanity. I've dedicated and devoted my life to the betterment of humanity through my gifts and talents in the industry of technology or fashion or food. And I am so excellent at what I do that I put a stamp. I change and shift the cultures of these traditional stale places. You understand what I'm saying? And it shows, and it shows by the fruitfulness of my works. People are actually subscribing, people are actually buying. Yes, considering the haters and people who have a problem with it, the majority of my supporters are actually fans of my work, not necessarily me, because I don't feel like people are fans of you, the individual. I feel like fans are a result of your abilities. People like how you make them feel. They like how you excite them. They love how you contribute to their lives, and how you improve their way of living. I mean, whatever. This can be in sports. This can be with technology, such as the Apples. This can be with food. Whatever it is, like the Chick-fil-A's. Whatever it is, people don't necessarily care about the founder and creator of a business, product, services. Some people do, right? Some people are, that deep, and they do care about the creator behind, right? The body or the person behind the product. But typically people don't really care about that, because they have their own things going on, and that's really what it is. Okay. So 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 I was like, okay, so I've established myself as this world-renowned, profound entity that is creating kingdom class products and services in the marketplace, that is distinguishing me as a force not to be reckoned with. Now, people say a force to be reckoned with. No, I've established myself as a force not to be reckoned with. So if you're pulling up, for your death. You're pulling up for your beheading, because it's already known, right? 100% success rate in defeating my enemies. Now, I'm just giving an example of just how I can give it up, right? Just how I can believe in myself and encourage myself, because ain't nobody encouraging me and making me feel great about myself. No, based on the definition of pride that I came across, based on how I just expressed myself and believed in myself, that would be considered in one of the definitions as pride, right? So how do you now, right? Excess, still, wanting to do good, still wanting to be true, still wanting to be self-aware, still wanting to, exercise, what I'm saying, the truth that you want to be a better person. How do you still exercise those desires without allowing this definition of pride to put a dent in your confidence or put a dent into negatively into how you see yourself, right? So that was the question I had for the Lord. I was like, Lord, I get what they're saying, and I get how, quote unquote, the negative definition of pride can be valid, and how it's true. Like, we see the effects of pride when it comes from a selfish place, when it comes from a manipulative place, when it comes from a place where people want to force their beliefs down your throat, right? How it is oppressive, right? Now, we see pride in the areas of race, of sexuality, of education, of you know just experiences where people have established a standard for themselves, which ultimately is what it is. It's really about your perception, because, and I'm going to tell you how the Lord broke it down for me and gave me rest, right? And I believe this is going to give you rest as well if you've been troubled, right, and perplexed about this situation, and how you can now go about being true to you, go about or be restored, right, to that space of authenticity, which is the only how you're going to thrive and flourish, right? So the breakthrough for me was that the Lord gave me was, first and foremost, everything in life is, when it comes to the human mind, it's perception, right? So based on the sum of your experiences, you are going to understand, determine, interpret, right? The mindset, the technology of your mind, based on the sum of your experiences, is going to internalize and communicate the experience that you're dealing with in that moment, past, present, or future, is going to interpret it accordingly, right? And it doesn't matter who you are. This is why you shouldn't, the word talks about, do not put your trust in kings or princes, but put your trust in God. Because even people whom we deem, right? I talked about fans and people who have fans and people who, have these large followings. Even when you put your trust, which is essentially what you're doing, right? If you're a fan, like a fan, you that person you're a fan of, that's your idol, right? So even when you make a decision, or if you make a decision to put your trust into someone to the point where you are just so disappointed, you are just disgusted when this person that you idolize makes a mistake, right? When they show their human side and do something that you least expect, you want to just throw the books at them. It's like they're unforgivable, they're this and they're that. And it's like, well, who told you to invest who told you to invest your life into this other human being who is just like you, right? Who told you, right, that this person was so perfect, more than God, that you've invested your life in this person, right? No one told you to do that. You understand me? And it doesn't matter how this celebrity or this person that you're a fan of, it doesn't matter how they presented themselves. It doesn't matter how they projected themselves, whether true or false, right? They had a choice to create a life that they want or wanted, whether it was duplicitous, right? Whether it was false or true. They made a decision. They've exercised their free will to create a life that they wanted, right? So how are you going to feel, and why do you feel that you should feel so strongly, right, about your feelings about this person making a mistake or doing something that you perceive as wrong in your eyes, right? Going back to perception, what makes you feel that your strong conviction is enough to change that person's life, or to make that person change how they feel about the situation that you're not happy about? And if they so choose not to change it, what makes you think that that will now make them prideful or not humble, right? So it's like, so this was the perplexity that I dealt with about 30 minutes ago, because I had, some thoughts come across my mind, when it comes to the job that I talked about, and just my own life, and just, keeping my head up in a time where, I know my environment doesn't, it shouldn't reflect who I am to be and where I'm going. But sometimes, you really have to say, like, Lord, like, I'm doing everything that I'm supposed to do. Like, why isn't the environment changing? I'm doing my affirmations. I'm saying what I'm supposed to say. I'm praying. I'm being consistent. I'm not, I'm avoiding manipulation. I'm avoiding doing illegal activities. I'm avoiding not doing the right thing. I'm exercising integrity. You know what I'm saying? I'm working towards becoming a better person based on what you said I should be, based on your word, right? That's my frame of reference, the word of God, right? The Holy Bible. I want to make that clear because I know everyone has their beliefs and their feelings. So I want to make very clear my frame of reference and where I glean and who I glean from when it comes to a form of righteousness that I choose to subscribe to, right? So I was just like, the perplexity, right? Like, what am I doing? Like how do I continue to be me, right, while still exercising the humility of being sensitive to other people's feelings, especially if you're a business owner, or you're someone who you have people working for you. You still want to have that representation authentically, that you do care about people, and that that you're not so full of yourself that and I say full of yourself to be funny, but that's the language that people give to people who are just confident about themselves. They know who they are and they have a strong personality, right? It's like you're not easily persuaded, you're not easily manipulated, you really don't care much about people's opinions, especially if it's not coming from a place of love. And this is one of the spiritual revelations that the Spirit of God gave me, right? So how you combat, right? How you combat just any type of negative thinking, because you can really go down the rabbit hole of, am I good enough? Or, is this situation, what's going on? Like, why, am I doing the right thing? So one of the gifts that the Spirit of God gives us is discernment, right? So discernment will have you, as it did for the Lord, right? When they was asking the Lord these questions and was basically, saying, if you're this, you're that, prove to us that you're the Messiah, yada, 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 right? One of his response to one of the situation was this. And I'm paraphrasing here. I'm going to put the scripture in the description box of this YouTube channel, right? His response was basically, you don't have the love of God in you, so I could really care less about your opinions about me. Because if you so had the love of God in you, this is not how you would have approached the situation. You would not have approached the situation from this judgmental, right? And it's okay. I believe it's okay to have to judge, or to be judicious about people and situations and things. I feel like that's a navigation system that God gives us. It's called instinct, it's called intuition, it's called sound judgment, where you're exercising those faculties to make decisions that's in your best interest, right? We all have those and we're all entitled to exercise those. But I'm talking about when people are just nasty, right? They're just so broken that their questions and their concerns has nothing to even do with you. It's just a reflection of their own infirmities. It's a reflection of their own just issues that they have yet to resolve or even come into the awareness of, right? So the Lord says, I don't care about your opinions of me, like, because you don't have the love of God in you. Because if you did, even if you were in disagreement with what I was doing, this would not have been the approach, right? You would have had compassion, you would have had understanding, you would have mind your business, right? Ultimately, right? And so that was one of the revelation, right? Discernment. And the Lord had discernment. The word talks about how he was able to hear people's thoughts, right? He was able to hear people's thoughts. He was able to discern and see behind the frame and behind the words, why was people asking the questions they were asking? Why were they doing the things that they were doing, right? And so that is the spiritual gifts that the Spirit of God gives us as children of God. And you can ask for it, or ask God to reveal that you have it if you don't think you do. That is able to help you to successfully navigate the perceptions and the opinions of people in the spaces and places that you're called to grow up in, whatever industry that may be. You're dealing with all different types of mindsets, philosophies, principles, and things that, you have to maneuver, right? As JC said, maneuver through a room, right, full of vultures. And ultimately, people, you know what I'm saying, they have their beliefs, and it's not for you to control or convince people to believe what you're saying, right? It's for you to believe in yourself so much that come what may, even till death, that there are certain convictions that you're not going to move from, because that is what you believe. In truth, that is what the Spirit of God has said is who you are. And anytime you compromise any aspect of yourself, you have just allowed the enemy to take control over you. That is why a lot of people, you know what I'm saying, it doesn't matter what the color of your skin is, it doesn't matter what your sexuality is, it doesn't matter how educated you are, it doesn't matter how much money you make. Once you understand the principal key, or the kingdom key, the spiritual key of authenticity, that is power. That is invaluable power that you can take anywhere with you and stand your ground. Now, I could go into, again, just the works of the enemy, and just, things that they describe as systematic oppression, systematic racism, systematic discrimination when it comes to not just black people, but when it comes to just race, period, right? When it comes to educational background, when it comes to citizenship, when it comes to immigrants and illegal aliens, all of these different things in a society that wants to control and wants to influence control based on the dominating entity, I hope you're catching this, is going to reflect in the different things that are established to keep certain people out, or to have certain people not recognize their God-given potential and begin to move in that, right? And this is one of the reasons, this is one of the themes, right, that my podcast Crown and Robe is founded on, is identity. Because your identity and what you're able to receive from God is in direct relation, or should I say, let me rephrase that. What you're able to receive from God when it comes to the promises and your royal identity is in correlation, or in direct relation, to how you see yourself. So what the works of the enemy has done has caused all these different beliefs and mindsets to have you think and believe that you're unworthy, to believe that your skin is something wrong with your skin color, is something wrong with you not being educated at a certain school, is something wrong with you not having a degree, is something wrong with you not having a certain car, is something wrong with you not having all these superficial, materialistic, and lustfully rooted desires. That something is wrong with you. And when you believe in your mind that something is wrong with you, then you become insecure. You have a feeling of inadequacy. You feel that you're not valued. And when you feel those things, you do things that align with your feeling, such as self-sabotaging, such as engaging in activities that destroy your body, that destroy your mind, that destroy your spirit. And then these habits then become, to the point of repetition, it becomes what is clinically described as addiction, right? So it's just like a whirlwind circulatory process of just dysfunction, where no one really wants to help you and pull you out. And even if they do, they really don't have the power to deliver you, because that is not their jurisdiction. That is not their authority. God has that authority. So going back to discernment, that is one of the spiritual gifts that is going to help you discern, right, where a person is coming from, if they so choose to divulge their feelings about you when it comes to, in a work situation. It can be your boss, it can be a fellow employee who feels, that they need to talk to you about how you behave at work, or talk to you about, how you do your work, right? And again, it's so much that goes into that. So discernment, right? Because the Spirit just said to me, sometimes even the confidence and the effortlessness of how you do your work can actually offend people. They can interpret that based on their insecurities and their mindset. They can interpret that as you being arrogant, or you being a know-it-all, when you're just gifted, you're just confident in your abilities. So again, discernment is the spiritual gift that the Spirit of God revealed to me, is what's going to help you successfully navigate the treacherous waters that these mindsets are flooded in, right? You know what I'm saying? And so when it comes to, just let's go in the sun a little bit. So that was one of the answers, right? And so the next part was the next revelation that the Spirit of God gave me was the importance of your active connection to the vine, right? This is how we're able to have, a consistent signal, right? A consistent flow of the Spirit of truth running through us, so that we know exactly, or we have the frame of reference that we need to self-reflect and to ultimately correct ourselves from whatever it is that that is being suggested to us directly or indirectly about our attitude, about our work ethic, about our ways and habits. People, like I said, there's always going to be something or someone that has something to say about you, good, bad, ugly, indifferent. And it's going to be even more as with the evidence of people who are in the limelight, public figures, people who are have a public presence. They talk about the opinions, right? Unsolicited opinions that is shared, especially in a time of social media, and you have an online social media presence. You can't necessarily escape the opinions of people who you will never meet and get the opportunity to question and ask, like, why? Okay, can you validate why you feel that way? Can you validate why you have such strong opinions about someone that you don't know personally? Can you validate, what I'm saying, why you feel so strongly about me, right? So we will never get the opportunity to have a intimate conversation about the opinions of people who are just being people, right? So when you know who you are, so one of the reasons why Jesus was also, I sense and discern in the Spirit, unapologetic and uncompromising about his messianic identity, right? Because of course his relationship with God, and of course the miraculous works that he was able to perform was affirmation outside of the heavens breaking open and the word of the Lord speaking to John and saying, this is my son with whom I'm well pleased, right? And those are surrounding who had the heart to hear the Spirit of God speaking. Outside of that affirmation, now came the miraculous works, which additionally affirmed that this was the Messiah. Now, even with all of those experiences, there were still people who did not believe. There were still people who went against this revelation. And this is the type of people that I'm talking about when it comes to you and how you deal with these individuals and how you're able to do so, just like the Lord, unapologetically and uncompromisingly. Is going to be a result of your righteousness, the righteousness that God ascribes to. One of the components of this righteousness is your faithfulness to God. John 15, the chapter of John 15, I can't remember what verse, but it talks about the requirement for you to be actively connected to the vine, so that in all that you do, you are fruitful. For without active connectivity to the vine, you will not be fruitful in the works of God's will. Part of doing God's will when it comes to your identity is having confidence in the abilities that God has given you. Now, it doesn't matter what culture says. It doesn't matter what mommy says. It doesn't matter what society says, whether they feel you're educated, whether they feel that your features align with what is aesthetically pleasing and presentable on the television screen, whether they find that your voice is soothing,